Struggling at 30 to maintain my friendship with PB, a 25-year-old soulmate, where I oscillate between deep affection and fear of being a creep. Our friendship isn't normal, I told him after he announced his soulmate plans. Can I truly be just friends? I pose this question in a general sense, but I am motivated to learn how to be more typical so that I can maintain my friendships and forge new ones. I am striving to become a better person who is easier and more enjoyable to be around. I am quite sensitive, deeply insecure, paranoid, and prone to withdrawing when difficulties arise. I excel at damaging relationships, cutting people off, and isolating myself for months or even years. Moreover, I struggle with limerence and forming inappropriate attachments to individuals. I have attended therapy to address these issues to some extent, and I have conducted personal research and read books pertaining to attachment theory and similar topics. I have learned to feel comfortable investing in myself, and I can venture out into the world alone, enjoying solitary outings without guilt. I have made a concerted effort to connect with my family, working to build stronger, more amicable relationships with my parents and siblings. I maintain weekly or bi-weekly contact with high school friends and have one friend I interact with daily who has inspired this exploration. I will refer to him as PB because, in terms of personality, he has much in common with Princess Bubblegum. When we first became friends, we connected through a popular online game and I joined his Discord server. He identified as gay and I regarded him solely as a friend. Over the subsequent months, during which we spent nearly 8 hours daily in voice calls, he shared his phone number with me and we would be on the phone when we weren't together on Discord. We almost always maintained contact, not necessarily conversing the entire time but often simply sharing each other's company while doing our own activities, whether it involved chores, eating, driving, or attending work or school. After a period of about 6 months, we had developed a level of closeness similar to what I had experienced in previous romantic relationships. At one point during this time, he transitioned from expressing a desire for a boyfriend to wishing for a girlfriend. He frequently voiced his fatigue with men and discussed the challenges he faced from them, asserting that women are easier to be with. In private, he confided that he struggled significantly with his sexuality during his youth and found it challenging to accept being gay. He now feels he is undergoing a similar transition. He expressed a hesitant interest in women and later identified as bisexual. Over time, my thoughts shifted from believing we would never be romantically involved to considering that perhaps we might. He would call me and stay on the phone with me throughout the day while I was at work, to the extent that I needed to charge my phone to prevent it from dying. He would study various materials, including test preparations, with me while on the phone. At one point, he mentioned having difficulty focusing, and on occasion, we would hang up so he could concentrate, or he would choose to stay on the line with me. He even took me with him to class via phone and shared the slides and textbooks he studied, quizzing me on the material. He encouraged me to pursue the same field as him so we could work together. At the time, I believed he was serious, but now I am uncertain if he was joking. I attempted to engage with his interest in this area because it mattered to him, and it was my way of showing that I cared. Eventually, he created a private Discord server for me, a mutual male friend whom I will refer to as Gromit and himself. We exchanged memes and discussed various topics in that private space. Meanwhile, PB and I continued our daily phone calls, often falling asleep while still on the line together. He would express his love for me and insist that I reciprocate. He sent me nude photographs of himself, and at times, we shared sexually explicit moments during our calls. I interpreted this behavior as significant, yet it became a point of contention since he casually sent nude images to numerous other individuals, and claimed that such actions were common, normal, and casual within his circle of the gay community. I felt agitated by this because I questioned whether I had any claim over him, grappling with jealousy and possessiveness. I made a concerted effort to manage these feelings since it was unfair to assert ownership when we were not in a relationship. This realization coincided with my desire to be with him, although I felt unworthy of him. Additionally, it was not an opportune moment to pursue a relationship due to his education commitments. Around the 7th month mark, a conflict arose within our friend group when some individuals created a We Hate PB group, where they spoke ill of him, mocked him, and coordinated trolling efforts. Gromit was friends with members of that group and joined it because he believed many of them had been unjustly banned from our Discord server. PB confided in me about the possibility of severing ties with Gromit and restricting his access to our Discord server due to his association with that group. I felt caught between my two closest friends, and Gromit was the only other person I could discuss this situation with. I betrayed PB's trust by revealing to Gromit what was occurring, and essentially warned him that remaining in that group could result in losing access to the main Discord server and being cut off by PB. Gromit acknowledged the situation and eventually decided to leave on his own. Meanwhile, I continued to maintain friendships with both of them, and Gromit had access to my gaming account to assist me with something related to the game. I permitted him access to my account solely for that purpose, intending no harm. However, by doing so, I inadvertently granted him access to the main friend group and PB. The We Hate PB group had created fake accounts capable of accessing our Discord server, spying on PB through that means. However, it does not negate the fact that I granted access to my account to Gromit and in doing so betrayed PB's trust once more. Tensions escalated between PB and me, and it became evident that I was going to face consequences. PB began withdrawing and escalating the situation. Historically, when events reached this point, it typically resulted in someone being removed from the group. I was on the verge of being cut off and banned as well. I felt he was justified. I had betrayed PB's trust, and it is difficult to rebuild after such incidents, regardless of my intentions. I composed a lengthy apology letter, acknowledging that I could foresee the impending fallout and had been trying to reach out, only to be met with silence. It became painfully clear that it might be best for me to distance myself rather than prolonging the inevitable suffering. Consequently, I blocked him on Discord. I remained heartbroken and devastated for several months. I spent that time crying and struggling to sleep, feeling as though I was missing something immensely important while knowing I was the only one to blame for the situation. I was invited to join the We Hate PB group but declined the offer. I withdrew from friendships entirely, ceasing communication with practically everyone. Our fallout endured for approximately 6 months until PB reached out to me through the game. He invited me back to his group and we gradually reconciled, rebuilding our relationship. We have maintained our friendship for over 2 years now, and our bond is as close as it was before. In the past year, we have supported one another through challenging times, relying on each other for emotional assistance. He encouraged me to attend school, and I would send him money occasionally whenever he needed help with food or bills. He has earned 3 degrees and places a high value on education, attempting to guide me through the process of enrolling in college. I was unable to enroll, as I fear quitting my job and taking out loans for school. I do not have the financial means to pay for tuition, and I filled out numerous essays for grants, ultimately finding that I did not qualify for any, leading me to give up. I have built a career in a field that is considered skilled work, which requires passing tests and regulations to qualify, although I do not think it falls into the category of a traditional trade job. I earn sufficient income to cover my own bills. I would love to pursue a path that allows me to earn enough to support myself and the people I care about. This desire was part of my motivation to pursue a degree, as was the aspiration to feel more deserving of a relationship with someone like my friend. At some point, we returned to sharing affectionate sentiments, with him suggesting we should consider marriage or cohabitation. When he made these statements, I began to believe him and thought he was dropping hints about his interest in me. Once again, we remained connected for most hours throughout the day, and I have never experienced this level of intimacy with anyone besides those I have dated. I confided in some other friends and sought advice online, ultimately deciding to be brave and communicate my romantic interest to him, although I was terrified of jeopardizing our friendship. During this period, I found myself becoming possessive once more. About a year ago, he expressed that the boundaries of our relationship felt unclear, and he was engaging in behaviors typically associated with boyfriends, which he perceived as problematic since we were not dating. He also mentioned he dreaded the idea of becoming romantically involved. I was left feeling confused and disoriented by his comments, and again encouraged by others to simply tell him of my feelings. Eventually, I shared my romantic interest with him, only to learn that he was not interested. He expressed that while he was sexually attracted to women, he could not envision himself marrying one. I was devastated, feeling I had overstepped boundaries and fearing I had made him uncomfortable by revealing my feelings. Consequently, I withdrew from speaking to him for a week due to my distress, trying to process my emotions and create some distance. Ultimately, I conveyed to him that I understood his position and wanted to remain friends, reaffirming my intention not to invest my romantic feelings in someone who did not reciprocate them. I believed this to be a reasonable outcome, though I continued to struggle with my emotions. I repeatedly reassured myself that we would never be together and that he was solely seeking a husband. I proposed that we avoid any sexually intimate discussions and requested he refrain from joking about marriage or living together to prevent any future confusion. I also grappled with my desire to offer him financial support. It felt foolish to continue assisting with his bills and food, but if I stopped, I worried it would appear as though I were attempting to buy his affection. Over time, I ended up sending him approximately $2,000, which he eventually repaid when he had the means. We have shared an abundance of time together over the past year. participating in lengthy phone conversations and engaging in activities, such as watching shows or playing games on Discord. I struggled for several months following my rejection because he would share details of his sexual encounters, sometimes calling me immediately afterward to discuss it or during his journey home. He even once called me to express how he wished to cuddle with me afterward. One day, PB mentioned a guy he developed a crush on, who informed him about another individual, which left PB feeling disheartened. I disclosed that I frequently experience similar feelings when he shares information about his relationships with others. Following our conversation, he ceased discussing his romantic and sexual experiences with other individuals. Much time has elapsed and we remain single. A few days ago, he confided that he wished he could have a wife, attributing this sentiment to the differing ways women are raised compared to men, emphasizing a greater inclination to care for others. I continuously reminded myself that he did not mean me and he did not desire a relationship with me. Nevertheless, we still communicate frequently, and that little voice in my head persists, suggesting maybe. Last night, he told me he had conversed with his ex-boyfriend for 4 hours, leaving me stunned, as it was the first time PB had mentioned him in such a long time. He remarked that his ex might be his soulmate and that he plans to propose. I felt hurt and taken aback by the depth of my emotions. The notion of maybe crept back into my thoughts, leading me to feel misled once more. Unfortunately, I struggled to conceal my shock and apprehension, which he noticed. I attempted to ask him questions and provide support, but I suspect I came across as insincere. He expressed that he preferred not to discuss it with me, referencing my past behavior when he talked about previous relationships. I began to feel upset because he was correct, yet I don't believe it is typical to avoid discussing such matters solely to spare a friend's feelings. He contended that he could simply refrain from discussing his relationship since he was not obliged to share. I countered that if he were to date or marry someone, it would be unreasonable never to mention them, and I would prefer he didn't exclude that aspect of his life. He grew suspicious of my motives for wanting him to share about his relationship and pushed back. I inquired whether he felt we would remain friends after he began seeing someone or if we should cease our friendship now. He deflected the question, placing the decision back on me. I expressed a need for him to eliminate the maybe from my mind, urging him to be straightforward, avoid flirting with me, and eliminate any ambiguity. He argued that it didn't make sense for me to feel confused if I understood he would never pursue a relationship with me. I asserted that our friendship was not typical and that we functioned almost as if we were in a relationship, insisting that he was in denial regarding our situation. He laughed at my perspective, appearing incredulous, either at my viewpoint or the situation itself. I felt awkward and uncertain, questioning whether it was inappropriate to continue spending hours on the phone until I fell asleep. Consequently, I bid him good night and terminated the call. I do not wish to be a bad friend. I do not want to be perceived as creepy or delusional, waiting for my friend to fall in love with me. I love him and he holds a special place in my heart. I believe I can accept his relationship with someone else provided they are happy together. I do not wish to have an adversarial relationship with his partner, nor do I want to be unkind or exclusionary towards them. I seek guidance on how to become a better and more conventional friend. I have researched these issues and previously confided in friends regarding them, but I hope that advice from an outside perspective can provide me with clarity. To summarize, I believe I have an inappropriate relationship with my best friend, but I wish to continue our friendship. I would appreciate any advice on how to be a more typical friend to him. Thank you very much for your time. Story 2. My ex cheated, flaunted a new life, then reached out months later saying, "I'm not happy." After I spotted a strange woman in his bed, he tossed my belongings and tried to blame me. Now stuck with his project, he admits he's cheated on her 4 times. I couldn't help but grin at his misery. What happens next? Okay, so I would be dishonest if I claimed I was not grinning in the most disgusting manner about him messaging me. After 2 years of being with him, I arrived at his address, where I had primarily been residing, only to find a woman in his bed, everything in disarray, and my belongings missing. During this period, I was genuinely struggling with my health and was not okay. It meant that I spent time with my family to be cared for, and during this time, he thought it would be a brilliant idea to start cheating on me with a random woman. Talk about kicking me when I was down. Upon discovering the random woman in his bed, I called my ex from work to come over immediately and give me my belongings so I could leave him for good. It turned out he had thrown many of my things away and hidden my work-related items, which are crucial for my self-employment, in his garage. I ignored the girl flapping about in the background. She was telling me to leave, but I refused to go without my things first and insisted that she call the police if she wanted me to leave. I just wanted my items back. I knew I should not have just shown up, but after being brushed off by my ex through text with vague excuses about work being busy and not being able to access my belongings, I decided to show up anyway. The door was unlocked and I let myself in, which was a normal occurrence when I was with him. To my horror, I saw a girl in his bed, everything rearranged, and some cheap roses in a vase in the living room. I had to step outside immediately to control my breathing. I called my ex and instructed him to retrieve my belongings. He tried to wriggle out of it, but I did not want to see him again after this and did not want the situation to drag out. The girl woke up from her slumber. I was sure my ex had called her immediately to inform her that I was around. She looked like a rat, and despite her flapping about in the background, I did not speak to her. I felt stunned. Regardless, after retrieving my belongings, I realized I still had 300 worth of stock that I needed and had to ask him if he either had it or had thrown it away. Eventually, he confirmed that he had my items and said he would drop them off that evening and would speak to me properly to apologize. He arrived that evening at my mother's address, attempting to dump my belongings on the street without me seeing him. I was standing and waiting on the street. He showed up with the woman sitting in his passenger seat. She began sneering at me once she saw me. I lost it. I swung the passenger door open and went for her, and I went for him. I hate to be a crash out, but my rage was overwhelming. Looking back, I know that reacting was not worth it, but they caught me at such a low point in my life, and their callous and sly reactions felt like I had been living with a stranger for 2 years. It was alien. I had so many happy memories with him, and I felt profoundly betrayed and deceived. I do not understand what I did to deserve such a bizarre reaction from the woman. I guess she had been sold a story by him because, for whatever reason, she wanted to stay with him. I blocked him and went no contact. I spent time focusing on healing my health and trying not to feel heartbroken. I had a lot happening in my personal life to compound everything, and I became absorbed in just trying to improve and feel better. It worked. I feel good, I feel free, I feel less drained. I have lost a significant amount of weight, I am doing yoga, I am receiving support for my health, and I am looking fabulous. I feel like I have a huge, overflowing sense of my own identity and boundaries. I am not lacking offers for dates, and I receive a lot of attention, which has been uplifting. While the male gaze is not what matters after feeling as worthless as my ex made me feel, it is nice to feel wanted for the right reasons and to know that there are decent people to surround yourself with. There is hope and peace, and someone who cheats is not a reflection of you, it is about them. It is their problem. I came to the conclusion that despite going no contact, I would hear from him again in some strange way, and it would only be a few months later. The woman and my ex would bond over me being a crazy ex-girlfriend who lost her mind, and it would bring them closer together, making them feel like star-crossed lovers, though that mindset would be short-lived. I am aware that they barely knew each other when I found out. I had a strong sense that the woman had practically moved in with him based on what I observed in the place when I arrived to retrieve my belongings. I just knew they would remain together for a while. He does not do any cleaning or tasks for himself, so I concluded he had found a woman who would simply replace my role in the household. As it turns out, I was correct in predicting he would cut off contact, which he did. 3 months later, my gut instinct was validated, and I was correct about their relationship status. He has criticized this woman in messages to me, from her performance in the bedroom to the poor meals she prepares and how she does not trust him to go anywhere without her. She is bossy with him and he feels suffocated. He cannot even sneeze without her being disgusted by him. He has asked to see me and expressed a desire to end things with her. She is not from the local area, and it seems she is planning to establish a routine by securing a job nearby. The seriousness of their relationship and his unhappiness is beginning to give him cold feet. They live together, and she does his housework, which is why he is hesitant to leave her, because she does his chores, nothing more. He is an even bigger jerk than I imagined, and it has been a huge eye-opener regarding how he treated me, just a maid he could sleep with, his own words. I can see even more of his true colors. I do not want to see my ex, and I do not even wish for a relationship with anyone anymore due to the turmoil and stress it caused me. However, I feel an overwhelming sense of relief and gleeful joy at the irony of how he has criticized this woman, who sneered at me like an insect on her shoe during my lowest moment, and who, along with my ex, inflicted significant mental pain on me. It has backfired, and now he wants to cheat with me against her. He also confided in his eye-opening message that he had already cheated on her 4 times, and despite her finding out, she still stayed, attributing his infidelity to his use of pornography and the lack of a father figure in his life. She sees him as a project and wants to make the relationship work, but I know that over time she will continue to be paranoid and overbearing for good reason, and that will eat away at her. I do not understand why she ever thought he would be loyal, considering she was part of my experience getting cheated on. I would call this poetic justice. There is a significant part of me that would love to screenshot his messages and send them to their door, but after already losing my temper previously, where they did not even deserve my reaction or upset at that time, I feel it is better to know and leave it as is. I am in a better mental place now, and I would rather let them be rats to each other, squeaking and arguing with one another and being unhappy. I do not need to facilitate their already miserable situation. I just feel like a massive weight has been lifted. I feel excellent. I hope they have a miserable remainder of whatever one might call their relationship.